This is Laura. Welcome everyone. Sorry, I'm attending virtually. Happy New Year. I'm calling this meeting to order. It is 1:33 p.m. on January 8th, 2024. As a reminder, please turn off your cell phones, limit any background noise. If you're on Zoom, please mute yourself. And then if you can leave all questions to the end of each presentation. I will pass off a roll call. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I will now be doing roll call. When I'm calling your name, so you can hear or press.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Okay. I'll be doing roll call. When I say your name, please say here or present. State if you are with any organization and give a brief introduction of who you are and a description of yourself. I'll start with myself, Cynthia Fosco. I am present, and I'm honored to be the new vice chair of the CTA ADA Advisory Committee. I am a 50-year-old woman, and I have short brown hair, wearing a black turtleneck with gray pants, and laying beside me is my beautiful black Labrador, and we are very happy to be here. She's a big fan of the CTA and all the public transportation. And I'm legally blind. I am a big advocate and I do outreach for Second Sense and for Guide Dogs for the Blind.
Sorry, for who?
Second Sense and Guide Dogs for the Blind. I'm so sorry. I should turn this way.
You really, yeah.
Okay. Laura Saltzman, our chairperson.
Hi, here. My name is Laura Saltzman, she, her. I'm a white woman in her 30s. I'm wearing a gray, kind of like turtleneck sweater, with like a greenish blurred background behind me. I'm the senior policy analyst for Access Living. I focus mostly on transportation, including transit. For those who are not familiar, Access Living is the Center for Independent Living in Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Sarah Luna.
Present. I'm Sarah. I'm representing the National Federation of the Blind of Illinois. I fulfill many roles within the organization and our various branches of our national organization. And in my free time, I practice judo. I am a Mexican-American, African-American woman in my 20s. I have dark curly hair and I'm wearing a black sweater with a black, blue, and purple scarf. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Sarah. Barbara Padilla.
Hi, Barbara is present. Sorry, my camera's not working. It just seems to show the ceiling of my room, so I'm going to keep it off. I am an accessibility specialist with LCM Architects. I provide accessibility consulting and reviews for architects and building owners, developers, etc. I'm a white woman of an unspecified age with blondish hair. I'm wearing an orange shirt with a black jacket and happy to be here today.
Thank you, Barbara. Mary Abramson.
Hi, this is Mary. I'm present and I'm a white woman with dark brown hair. I think it's mostly dark brown. Still, I'm a senior citizen. I've always been visually impaired. Today I have on a blue shirt and blue sweater. I spent a half a century or more using public transportation, and I believe it's one of the best ways for people with disabilities to be independent. And I'm here today representing myself and all people who are visually impaired.
Thank you, Mary. Doreen Bogus.
Present. And again, my name is Doreen Bogus. I am here representing the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities, City of Chicago. And I am wearing a green sweater with a gray skirt. And I take the CTA quite frequently.
Thank you, Doreen. The next three members have been with the ADA Advisory Committee for the past 4 years, and this is their last meeting. We thank you so much for your commitment. Robin Jones.
Hello, Robin Jones. I'm the director of the Great Lakes ADA Center. I'm located at the University of Illinois at Chicago in the Department of Disability and Human Development. I am past middle age, white woman with short red hair, asymmetrical haircut, wearing dark rimmed glasses, and I have a floral scarf on with a gray sweater today. And appreciated the time I've been. I thought I'd only been on for a few years because I kind of lost that COVID period where everything was a little bit different. I came on during COVID, so it was a little bit different process and stuff. So I guess my 4 years is up, and it's been enjoyable. This is my first in-person meeting. Since it's my last one, might as well come in person and go out with a bang. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Robin. Michael Kaiser. Michael?
He's not present.
Michael's absent, okay. Nicholas Robertson.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Robertson, and I am representing the blind of Illinois. I currently have a shaved head with a short, full beard, wearing a steel blue sweater, and I would like to extend a grateful thank you to the Chicago Transit Authority ADA Advisory Board. You guys do a tremendous job of including the cross-section of ridership that really relies on you guys to get the disabled to and from point A to point B. And I would like to congratulate you guys on a job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next is our three new members. We're excited to have you as part of the ADA Advisory Committee. As with the rest, please give a brief introduction of yourself. First is Sandra Fernandez.
Hi, my name is Sandra Fernandez. This is my first meeting at the advisory board, and I'm very excited to be here. I do have spina bifida. I am 27 years old. I am wearing a tan turtleneck with a black striped blazer.
With any organization?
I'm not with any organization per se. It just interests me to help the community for the future generation of people who have disabilities that can be improved. And that's been my passion with mental disabilities, physical disabilities that need to come together and work together to better it rather than just trying to oversee certain disabilities. And I really hope to do that within this community and help everyone who has a disability, not just specific ones.
Thank you, Sandra. Dr. Delphine Labby.
Hi, my name is Delphine Labby. I'm a professor in the Department of Disability and Human Development at the University of Illinois at Chicago. My research is all around access, inclusion, making our cities more accessible. So I think that giving my time to this committee for me is really important. And I also want to learn and being in the loop of what's happening and being able to also contribute to our community as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Johnny Gonzalez.
Hello, I'm Johnny Gonzalez. I'm a Hispanic male in my 40s. I have no hair, a gray sweater, and a ball cap on. I'm a disabled veteran, full-time student at Purdue. I use a CTA for short distance transportation often, and I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you so much. And welcome to all of you. Up next is our CTA facilitators. Irma Gomez Bureau, ADA Manager and CTA Facilitator.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Irma Gomez Bureau. I'm the ADA manager. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a fair-skinned Latina in my late 20s. Currently wearing a brown shirt and straight brown hair. I'm a wheelchair user and I'm joining virtually today due to being sick. But I'd like to extend my welcome to Sandra, Johnny, and Delphine. I hope to meet you all in April.
Thank you so much, Irma. Elsa Gutierrez, CTA Vice President, Schedule and Service Planning.
Hello, as Denise said, my name is Elsa. I am Latina, early 30s, wearing a black sweater with a gray necklace, glasses, and brown hair to my shoulder. I want to thank the members whose last meeting this would be for your contributions of this board, and also welcome the new members for us to continue to provide input on how to improve.
Thank you, Elsa. Molly Poppy, CTA Chief Planning and Innovation Office.
Hello, I'm Molly Poppy. I am the brand new Chief Planning and Innovation Officer here at CTA. I just started this role January 1st. So I'm really excited to be here, and you will be hearing a lot more from the planning and innovation team as we move forward. But just a quick breakdown on what this is, because I knew previously it was just the Chief Planning Officer. So the Chief Planning and Innovation team is a combined team of the planning department, which does scheduling and service planning. It does strategic planning, long-term planning, and ridership. And then the innovation team does fare systems and really project management for various innovation projects that are moving forward. So we're really combining those teams and having them work together, both on the near term, which is the quarterly schedules that go out for us, which is a very regular schedule that we need to do to deliver for our riders. And then those long-term planning projects that I know the ADA Advisory Committee has been very involved in and gives a lot of great feedback on. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for welcoming me to my first ADA Advisory Committee meeting. And I should describe myself. I am a white female in my mid-30s. I have brown hair and a ponytail, and I am wearing a very bright red tweed jacket. So I also want to take this opportunity to thank Robin and Nicholas for their service. We really appreciate your commitment to the committee and serving, especially Robin, during the COVID times, which it feels like, we lived a decade in those years. So thank you for that. And then I want to welcome the new members, Sandra, Delphine, and Johnny. We're really looking forward to your participation in the committee.
Thank you, Molly. So I lost count. Do we have 7 people here in person? 7 people makes a quorum. Okay, so we're a quorum. Does anyone have any disability related announcements they would like to share?
I forgot to describe myself. Can I just say it? It's Delphine talking. So sorry, I forgot to, and I'll get better at that. So I just want to describe that I'm, woman with long hair, brown long hair, wearing glasses, and I have right now a white shirt with black stripe. Thank you.
Thank you. Always appreciated. So if there's no announcements, then we can move on to the approval of the minutes. Laura?
Okay. So the October 10th, 2023 minutes were sent to members ahead of this meeting for review. Does anyone have any changes for the minutes?
I do. It's Doreen, I'm OPD. I was in the list of people that were at the meeting. My name was there, but I was not at that meeting. And I sent the email this morning after reviewing the minutes.
Okay, so if we can please have that changed so that Doreen, who is listed as attended, is no longer listed as having been attended to the minutes. Are there any other changes or corrections needed? And I'm assuming, and those minutes will be amended.
Yes.
Great. Can I have a motion to approve the amended October 10th, 2023 minutes?
So moved.
Can I
Robin
have a-
Jones. So
Robin,
moved.
Robin moved to approve them. Can I have a second?
This is Mary. I'll second that motion.
And Mary Abramson is seconding it. Have a vote? All in favor?
I.
Opposed? Abstain?
I would abstain from the content of the minutes since I was not here.
Oh, but even though it's being amended? Sorry, I'm confused.
Because I was not here, so yes.
So she's unable to speak to the.
Oh,
minutes.
so I'm sorry. Oh, abstain. You know what? My
That's what I
brain.
said to the content.
I had a little like brain lapse. Sorry. Well, then I think it passes, and then Doreen abstained from voting because she was not here. For next, we have public comment. Irma, is there any public comment?
Yes, we had 12 public comments from the American Council of the Blind of Metro Chicago and National Federation of the Blind that were received this quarter. I will be reading 2 of the comments due to time constraints. The first comment is from Sharon Howerton. She wrote, several months ago, probably 2 years ago now, I was invited to attend a meeting where these signs were demonstrated. She's speaking on behalf of the bus stop signs. I believe this was part of a meeting of the CTA ADA Wayfinding Committee, chaired at the time by Whitney Hill. My opinion then and now is that this is a ridiculous and total waste of money. First of all, it is a fallacy that all blind and visually impaired people read Braille. As a lifetime Braille reader and teacher of Braille, as part of my profession, career, and now in retirement, where I continue to teach Braille to blind and visually impaired adults, I would like to see that more people learn and use Braille, but that is not the case. Aside from that, bus stops seem to change all the time. One cannot rely on a pattern to find bus stop locations. At some places, they are before a crossing, sometimes after a crossing, and sometimes in the middle of a block. So how does CTA or anyone purport to have individuals find those signs? To me, it would have made more sense to have an auditory sign on some stops downtown and perhaps other places which could benefit people whether they read Braille or not. To me, if one is going to make a sign, make it as universally accessible and useful as possible. And for those who have some vision, is there some kind of coloring or something so that people can actually see to find that sign? A student who started to work with me earlier this year saw such a sign one day, wasn't sure what it was, but discovered it had Braille on it. At the time, he was just starting his learning, so could not read it. If there was an auditory cue, he or anyone could determine that it is a bus stop. The route traveled, its direction, and any other pertinent information. What he told me was, I saw a bus stop sign out there with Braille on it. I'm sorry, but to me, this is and will continue to be a waste of funds and a significant lack of understanding of blind and visually impaired travelers. The second public comment that I'll be reading comes from Michelle Alt. She states, I'm writing to express my concern regarding accessibility related to the CTA new bus stop signs and strongly urge that the large print and Braille bus stop signs list bus route numbers and direction, not simply bus stop. This is particularly important at combo stop, that is locations where more than one route stops. Please note that the Americans with Disabilities Act Accessibility Guidelines, ADAAG, require public transit systems to indicate routes and destinations where more than one route stops. The bus stop signs for people who are sighted include route numbers, direction, and information as to where the bus runs on that particular route. It also includes a number to call for information, a website address, and a number to text for estimate arrival times. If you cannot see the bus stop sign because you are blind or have low vision, the new large print braille bus stop signs only tell you that you are at a bus stop. Because of this, someone who is blind or has low vision needs to wait for someone to come along and assist or wait till the bus actually arrives and ask the driver. On more than one occasion, I have waited a considerable amount of time for a bus only to find out from the driver that I was at the wrong stop. This could have been avoided if more information was on the braille large print bus stop signs. I look forward to learn how the CTA officials plan to address and remedy these concerns. Those are all the public comments.
I think there are responses, but I'm wondering if because this topic is going to come up in old business, if we want to leave it to them. Or if anyone has any thoughts.
Sarah. I find it kind of amusing that the first commenter stated that the signs were ridiculous because not all blind people read Braille. That is true, but preferring an audible sign over a tactile sign ignores the fact that there are deaf blind people and not all blind people have great hearing. And then oftentimes on the street, there is other noise that could prevent someone from hearing an audible sign in the first place. So I feel that tactile signs, we've already committed to them, and that if we can find a way to have the same amount of information in a tactile form that people who can see receive visually, then I think that is a great use of our time.
Robertson? I just would like to speak to the fact that, yes, it would be amenable to have all the information as a sighted person or a sighted traveler. But with the advancement in technology today, in my experience, it's just as easy to plan out your route using a smartphone or a computer. I would say a vast majority of us have computers in the palm of our hand via a smartphone, and even an app such as Apple Maps or Google Maps give very concrete information as to where the exact bus stop is, what time the bus gets there, and how many stops you need to ride to get off or transfer. I think that we need to be cognizant of the fact that a lot of the accessible information changes cost money. And I think we need to limit ourselves to ask for things that are beneficial to everybody and maybe limit unnecessary costs that may benefit some and not all. Thank you.
Sarah, the downside to that is that what if my phone dies? What if my phone is stolen? What if it's 0 degrees outside and it's too cold for my phone to function outside? I feel that we've already committed to the tactile bus stop signs, and I feel like this is a path we've already spent a significant amount of grant money on, so we should continue down this path.
I'm not
Thank you, everyone,
saying
for your comments. We will try and make sure that everyone's needs are heard. But right now we do need to move forward with the presentations. If there's any further comments, I would be happy to talk with anyone, and I believe a meeting on this is definitely needed. So we will discuss that internally, and I'll let you all know.
It's Laura. Thank you, Irma. And yeah, I think that's a good idea given how much this has come up, that there's a it's worth discussing in more spaces. Or it's worth setting up a meeting. So now for presentations, we have the All Stations Accessible Program, or ASAP update presented by Steve Masheri, Vice President of Capital Construction.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Masheri, Vice President of Capital Construction. I'm a male in his early 40s, thinning brown hair. I have a blue collared shirt on and a black vest on, currently in my office. Thank you for allowing me to present today on January 8, 2024. So today we'll be going through the ASAP update slide deck. Next slide, please. So our agenda today will be going over the ASAP program, followed by the phasing of the program. We'll be talking about accessible stations by rail line, followed by non-accessible stations by rail line, current project overview, challenges to overcome, and then other initiatives of ADA that are projects that are on the horizon. Next slide, please. So the All Station Accessibility Program is something that the CTA is committed to making our system completely accessible to people with disabilities in the next 20 years, becoming the first legacy transit system to make all stations, train stations, accessible. This is to create, support people who are a range of physical and sensory and cognitive abilities to independently use the services provided by CTA. The ASAP program is to address 42 stations that are currently inaccessible and are included either in the ASAP or one of CTA's other major capital programs. Throughout all phases of ASAP, 162 elevators will be either replaced or rehabbed. Next slide, please. So the total ASAP budget for over a 20-year cost is estimated to be approximately $2.1 billion. The phase 1 program, which includes Racine, is $467 million. Phase 2 stations is $234 million, as well as $37 million for system-wide elevator replacement, which is currently funded to date. Phase 1 for the schedule, phase 1 project is dates to be complete between 2023 and 2025, and phase 2 projects will begin in 2026. Go through 2028. We will be doing regular updates to this plan, and we'll be publishing an update later this year, and then we'll be including phasing and estimates, and then we will update the plan accordingly once it is complete. Next slide. So this slide breaks down the ASAP program into 4 phases. We've used this visual previously that shows the program broken down into the 4 phases. Phase 1 is currently 100% funded and underway, which includes Montrose, California, and Racine on the blue line, Austin on the green line, State and Lake in the loop, and then 4 stations as part of RPM, which includes Argyle, Berwyn, Bryn Mawr, and Lawrence. Phase 2 is currently 45% funded, and the stations funded are currently Irving Park, Belmont, and Pulaski on the blue line, and Oak Park and Ridgeland on the green line. Of those 14 stations, once these stations are complete, CTA will have 117 stations completed out of the 145 stations, or approximately 81%. Next slide. So looking at phase 2, which is where we're currently at, $118 million FTA money has been funded for these 3 stations, Irving Park, Belmont, and Pulaski. Once these stations are completed, the blue line will be fully accessible from O'Hare Airport through Western and Milwaukee. In addition, we have federal formula money and state funds to complete the design and construction for 2 stations on the green line, Oak Park and Ridgeland. And then the green line will be fully accessible at the completion of these stations. CTA has applied for additional funding through mega grants for Cicero Austin, but we did not receive funds for those stations. However, CTA is applying for additional ASAP grant fundings, so we're aggressively pursuing other opportunities to make these stations accessible. Next slide. So this is a breakdown of accessible stations by rail line. similar to what I've gone through in the past. Currently, 103 of the 145 stations are accessible. And you can see we range anywhere from 36% on the blue line up to full accessibility on the brown line, yellow line, pink line, and orange line. Next slide. This is a breakdown of stations by rail line. For brevity's sake, I'll just touch base on the stations that currently are being funded, which includes Western and Pulaski on the Congress branch, as well as California on the Logan Square branch, Belmont, Irving, and Montrose on the O'Hare branch. Next slide. On the green line, Oak Park, Ridgeland, and Austin are not accessible, but we, again, as I previously stated, we do have funding, so we expect to have a fully accessible green line station soon. In the loop, we have 3 stations not accessible. One of them we do have funding for with State and Lake. Purple line, we have 5 stations not accessible. And on the red line, we have 4 stations that are being completed through the RPM program. Phase 1 overview. So we have a lot of work currently happening in construction right now, which we're really excited about. Right now, we are currently reconstructing the Racine station, which we previously demolished during last year's extended line cut, with a lot of help from our friends in operations and planning and innovation. So we're currently expecting to have that station complete by Q4 of 2025. Austin Lake, we currently just recently provided notice to proceed. So construction is beginning over Austin Lake with the contractor, which we expect to have done in Q1 of 2025. The design for California Station, we are at 90% design review. We expect to have under contract Q3 of this year and then complete by the end of 2025. Montrose, we've just started the design, which is Q2 of 2025 and be done late 2026. And we are partnering with CDOT to have the State Lake Station out for procurement, which we're expecting to start later this year. Next slide, please. So phase 2, we're currently in the planning and the planning phase and about to get into the design phase. So for Irving Park and Belmont, we're packaging those 2 together. We're actually soliciting for designers for those 2 stations to be done simultaneously. We're expecting construction to start in 2026 and be done in 2028. Pulaski on the blue line, we're expecting to start mid-2026, also be complete in 2028. And then Oak Park and Ridgeland will go out as a package, which we're hoping to start construction mid-2025 and also be done by mid-2028. Next slide. So going back to the stations that are ready for construction, just a couple of visuals. Hopefully we're going to have we can provide some additional photographs for progress for Racine. Just shows that once the Racine station is complete, the station will be fully compliant with an elevator at Racine. We expect to have that entrance done by Q4 of 2024 with that accessible element complete. Lake Austin station, we just gave NTP and we expect to have done Q1 of 2025. Next slide. And as I discussed previous, we have California, Milwaukee under design. Here are some renderings for where we have a fully compliant entrance at California. We're also working with a State Historic Preservation Society to keep historic elements intact for that station. We're expecting to have NTP Q4 of 2024, and then we'll have construction done by the end of 2025. Next slide. So these stations, State and Lake, we're just waiting for bids to go out through CDOT because they'll be managing the project. We'll be assisting them for review and minimizing impact to customers and passengers. So when that station is complete, we'll have 8 elevators, which will be installed within the station. At Montrose Blue, we are under design. We'll have elevators on at both entrances on both sides of Montrose Avenue, and we'll have that work completed by mid-2026. Next slide. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Steve. So does anyone have any questions?
I would. My Delphine speaking. And pardon me, I'm new, so I'm not sure. It seems like the accessibility program mostly involved just installing elevators, as at least that's what's been described. I'm wondering, and this is something that came up from people with disability who have fatigue or who have need some breaks when they're walking and they're not using CTA right now because we removed a lot of the benches and place to rest. So for Racine especially, which is a very long station, same with the University of Illinois station, the medical district, if there's any plan to add some resting area, especially the first bench are very far in the station. And I'm wondering if there's just consideration of thinking of accessibility for those people that can walk, but still have a disability. So they would use the elevator, but if it's a long distance to walk, they will still be inaccessible for them. So I just wanted to point that out.
That's a wonderful question. Thank you for that. So I did highlight the elevators as the main point of accessibility for the stations. In addition to that, we do put in a full signage array within the station as well for visually impaired. We also, in addition to benches, we do put benches in what we believe are strategic areas with on the platform. So if we have people that if they need to sit down, they need to rest, we will have benches available for them. But it's something we can definitely go back and look at to make sure we're more thoughtful on the placement as well as the quantity of benches on the platform.
Thank you.
And this is Doreen. Can we get at the next meeting an update on what the plan is for the seating?
Yes.
This is Laura. Actually, I'd like to flag that and echo that. Thanks. As someone with the bed back, I would echo, yeah. The having benches, whether it's at the new stations and maybe upping them at the older stations is incredibly important. When you're at one of the stations where there's not a lot of benches and they're all taken up, it can be kind of rough. I think it probably discourages use at times. So if we could, yeah, I would love to know how many benches are at the stations and compared to station length, and just some of them have a number of them, some of them are really lacking. Thanks.
Understood. We'll look into it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Delphine again, sorry. And I'm not sure if the correct name, but is the committee will be consulted for the new Green Line station for Damon and Lake? Is that the one that is being constructed right now? Is there that current practice that we also look at the design before or the plan for accessibility, or it just goes under the regular ASAP?
So Damon and Lake is being built by CDOT. We're assisting them to make sure that they're up to our current design standards. So that station currently is under construction. It doesn't fall necessarily under the ASAP program because it's a new station. But if there's any questions you can have, I could definitely obtain those for you.
Thank you. Yeah, wanted to know if we were updated.
Any other questions? I would just be curious about in terms of the CDOT mandate, if the CDOT managed updates, if they have what the checklists are and if they have the same requirements when it comes to accessibility. I know folks have raised with me the issues with the transfer on the State and Lake Station with wayfinding, and for wheelchair users that creates some concerns.
So we do. I'm sorry, Laura. Go ahead.
No, please.
So we do look through their design. We give them our design guidelines. So as they're going through the design progress, we do evaluate what their design looks like from a signage standpoint, from an accessibility standpoint. So while they're still designing and constructing it, we do have input during that design phase to make sure that we're going to be inheriting for operation and maintenance and use complies with what we're looking for.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions? Thank you for presenting, Steve, as always. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Up next is the Red Purple Modernization updates presented by Jeff Wilson, Director of Community Relations.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Wilson. I'm the Director of Government Community Relations on the Red Purple Modernization team. Excuse me. It is so nice to see everybody in person. This is my first in-person meeting since COVID. And I'd like to tell you that it took me 20 minutes to try to find a shirt that would fit. And I put on this sweater overhead because I feel like I'm popping out a little bit. So with that, I am a 50-something-year-old pale white man with dark hair, glasses, medium weight-ish, good height.
Yeah, I think so.
And I've been on this project since the beginning. But before I begin, I'd like to introduce somebody that just arrived to the Red Purple Modernization team, Taquanda Hurst. Taquanda comes to us from CDOT, so we're very lucky to have her expertise on the RPM team and an ability to help us manage the project area, which some of you already know is huge. We go from Belmont in the south all the way up to Thorndale in the north. And Taquanda is going to be helping us with all the ADA related issues, making sure that accessibility is at the forefront of our safety and security process when we move forward through the project area. One of our number one concerns has always been, is there accessibility for people trying to get north and south through the project area, as well as east to west through the Red Purple bypass area specifically, because as you know, during construction, one of the first things people seem to overlook is accessibility for people. And it's my team's responsibility to make sure that that accessibility is maintained through the project area. And I'd like to specifically thank Laura, they turn around to the camera, Laura, for all her assistance with making sure that we're on our toes when it comes to making sure that accessibility is maintained. And Robin, I'm so sorry that we won't be able to see you in person. So thank you for all your assistance throughout the 4 years. I really appreciate it from all of us at the RPM team. So thank you. So with introductions out of the way, I'm going to start with a basic overview of Red Purple bypass, or excuse me, Red Purple modernization, which is basically broken into two sections. We have the Red Purple bypass area, which is Belmont north to Addison for all intents and purposes. And then on the north side, we have the Red Purple modernization, Lawrence, Bryn Mawr, Berwyn, and Argyle modernization, full modernization station, 100% accessible project, and we plan on being complete by 2025 in that year, Q4 2025. So right now in the Red Purple bypass area from Belmont north to Addison, we are in the process of demolishing the northbound tracks. We just opened the southbound tracks, so we're on target for that. While we're in the northbound tracks, we are straightening out the curve that goes basically from Leland North to Addison. So that little curve is being straightened out. So our customers should expect a smoother, more comfortable ride when we finish the project. The work continues on the demolishing part of it through February. And during that time, as I said earlier, Taquanda and myself will be making sure the accessibility component is maintained through all that demolition work, especially at the Clark and Roscoe intersection, which is a very high traffic, heavy pedestrian area. As we move north into the Lawrence, Berwyn, Bryn Mawr modernization area in Argyle, we are in the process of pouring the permanent station foundations, which is very exciting for us. We have a little bit of demolition work that still needs to take place in the Lawrence area, but we are on target to get that completed and have those station foundations poured and start doing actual station building work, which is the sexy stuff, as I like to call it, in 2024 into 2025. And then exciting news, because of the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr modernization area, it currently has, well, not currently anymore because we're in the middle of demolishing it, but there's an embankment. And the embankment is being demolished right now. And the plan was to maintain the embankment as much as we could and then rebuild it where necessary. But due to some of the construction constraints that we had, as well as the issue of parts of maintaining that embankment, the CTA and the contractor have decided to tear down the entire embankment from Lawrence north to just south of Ardmore. With that, we will be working with the community and a company called Site Design to engage and activate 1.3 miles or 10 blocks of under L right of way. We have 2 public engagement meetings this week. We have one on Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30 at St. Ida's, which is 5500 North Broadway. And then we have a second public engagement meeting that's at Truman College, which is 1145 West Wilson. And both those meetings are the same meetings. They represent the 1.3 miles, like I said. The Truman College meeting is Foster South to Lawrence, and the St. Ida's meeting, which is on Thursday, is Foster North to Ardmore. We expect to have a lot of people engaged with CTA and the contractor to give their feedback on what kind of activation they see the under L right-of-way being as we move forward. And we're really excited about that. That's it for RPM, believe it or not. Are there any questions anybody has about Red Purple modernization or project activation under the L?
Yeah, this is
Robin.
Robin Jones. Give me a sense of what that area could be.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
So it really depends on where you are under the L. We've been getting everything from jogging paths to pickleball courts to dog parks to activating segments of it for food trucks for some of the local restaurants, like specifically around Argyle. So that seems to be a hot ticket item right there. We work very closely with the stakeholders in the project area. One of the stakeholders is the Chinese Mutual Aid Association, as well as Southeast Asia Community Center. Both are advocating for some kind of open space for kids to play. And then the Southeast Asia Community Center also is advocating for more of a food truck environment that caters to local tastes. And so we're excited to hear what the feedback is from the community at large to speak. So, but it's all, to be honest, Robin, it's all over the map. And it's actually starting to be really fun managing all those expectations and ideas that are starting to come in. So
Can you give me an example of where there are other areas that are similar that already exist that have that kind of open space?
So within the city of Chicago or just in the United States or both?
Chicago.
In Chicago, this would be the most unique opportunity we have. Yeah.
Get a picture. We have something else like that. No,
Yeah, Robin, we really don't. So there's a couple things that CTA does that's that don't even come close. It'd be a waste of time for this board to even kind of go into it. But there's been a couple successful activation spaces like around Southport Brown Line Station, where the community stakeholders have opened up a farmer's market during the summer every other weekend, which is successful. But that literally represents the space about a quarter size of this room. We're talking about 1.3 miles, 10 blocks of activation. But great question. I hope to see you there this week.
yeah, well, trying to what that would look.
Yeah, it's approximately 65 feet in width,
Yeah.
1.3 miles in length, like I said, and it's 10 blocks, so it's broken up pretty significantly with some very heavy traffic streets as the cross streets. So it'll be a challenge kind of making that continuity between Ardmore in the north and then Lawrence in the south. But we're excited. We have a great company that we contracted with, Site Design. They are experts in this kind of engagement. They are responsible for, if those of you have been to Ping Tom Park in Chinatown, they're responsible for the landscaping in that. They did a good portion of the river along the Chicago River. I believe they have contracted with the Obama Center to do the landscaping for the future Obama Center. But they've done a lot of City of Chicago projects that residents can be very proud of, and we're very excited to have them on as a team.
Great.
I have a question,
Yes,
actually.
ma'am.
This is Cindy Fasco. I just wanted to ask about, what about noise? How do you have activities underneath the rails without, I mean, I know it's gonna be noisy, that's just the nature.
No, that's like, Cindy, that's a great question.
Area you would use if it's a space?
Yeah, great question. And we get a lot of it actually about the noise. One of the great things about the Red Purple Modernization Project is that the construction materials that they're using are modern concrete structure materials, and it's called closed decking. And so the noise is actually kept within the the track bed itself and then goes up and out. So people that are underneath the track, well, we've already experienced this because the in the LBMM area, the east side track is already, excuse me, the west side track is already completed, and we're working on the west side track right now. The east side track, you can noticeably tell a difference when you're standing underneath the right of way, how less of a how much less noise pollution you get from the overhead.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We also encourage anybody that on the board that wants to tour the Red Purple Modernization area, please feel free to reach out. Jay Wilson at transitchicago.com or T Hurst, HURST at transitchicago.com. We would be more than happy to fit within your schedule a project area tour. We're really good at it. We love doing it. Lunch is on you. So, but in all seriousness, we really would love to see members of the ADA board come up and take a visit, and we'd be more than happy to showcase the whole Red Purple Modernization area.
Jeff, I did have a question and I might have missed it. When you start, what was the first station that has ADA access? You consider, because I know there's 4 and you have them online. Which is the first one that would be opened?
Yeah, Elsa, that's a great question. And what the contractor is doing right now is we're working on all the stations at the same time. So we anticipate and are confident that all 4 stations would be open, fully accessible at the same time.
And that target date is by the end of
2025. Yep.
Excellent.
Next year already.
I can't, Cindy, it's like it's gone by so fast. It's just crazy to me. Like every day I'm like, wow. And the progress has been amazing to watch. And I have to tell you, as somebody that's been doing this meeting on a regular basis for the last 5 years, to actually see the project come to a fruition and being built, knowing that in a year and a half, basically, we're going to have fully accessible train stations where there weren't any. And it's not just people with mobility, issues. It's every citizen of the city of Chicago that wasn't able to access our system because they weren't able to get to track level because we don't have, wide enough platforms, elevators, escalators, et cetera. So it's a project that we're very, very proud of. It's one that President Dorval Carter and mayors subsequent and current have championed. And I think everybody in this room can be very proud of the work that's being done on this project. So thank you.
You.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, sorry. Then this is Laura. Well, I can recommend. I've gone on the tour. I suggest anyone who's up for it to. It is very informative, and it's nice to be able to check out the stations and getting a sense of how things are going there. And I will also state that, yes, there was a contractor who created an accessibility issue. I flagged it to the folks, to Jeff's team, and not only was there a fairly quick response, I have not noticed a similar issue or any kind of accessibility issue in that area since. So I do recommend, if you run into a problem, to flag it to them. They're not everywhere, but I have found them to be particularly responsive. Or if you're not comfortable with doing so, if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to do so on your behalf. So
Laura, thank you so much, because I mean, like you and I have talked about in the past, the more eyes that we have on the projects, the more issues that you see, we want to tackle them immediately. It's like I said earlier, it's very, very important for us that people have access, even if the train stations currently are not accessible because of the construction. This construction area should be and is contractually responsible to be accessible for ease of movement outside of the construction area.
This is Delphine here, and I know I think at your last meeting you had a presentation from my wonderful colleague Yochai, who presented the results of a assessment of the sidewalks around the station. I don't know if that included those new station, but we're still having our project sidewalk. We still have that tool to evaluate. So when you're ready, or when maybe before you're starting all that construction, if there's collaboration with CDOT, the tool is, I don't know if you were there, but the tool is to look at the accessibility of sidewalks around. So that might help for the positioning of the bus stop if you're thinking of changing some orientation. So yeah, so I just want to highlight that if this is something that you're looking for or some information you might want to have, you can reach out to us at UIC for that. But also something that needs to be considered, right? And I know for Western Brown Line, we got a lot about what's happening around the station as well as part of the accessibility, but we know this is not always under the CTA responsibility, but thinking that as part of the accessibility.
I do know that we have a great partner in CDOT right now that we do work closely with regards to all the accessibility issues while we're doing the construction, but I'll make sure that that part of the conversation is also being continued throughout the rest of the project area, especially as we start checking off the final boxes. So I appreciate that input.
Thanks. And I just want to note that we're running pretty tight on time. So if no one has any more questions. Thank you, Jeff, for your presentation as always. Really appreciate it. And I mean,
everyone.
Thank you.
I do think that this probably, raises an ongoing conversation that maybe needs to be had with CDOT in terms of sidewalk accessibility, but that can be left for another time. Up next, we have a presentation on homeless outreach by Thomas McCone, Chief Administrative Officer.
I'm not
Happy
sure.
to go here. I just wanted to make sure we were at the right spot on the agenda.
Sorry, who's speaking?
I believe the next one is the ridership, Laura. Haven't put in.
Okay.
Right.
I had a.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just. Yep, the homeless one is next.
Okay.
Not on our agenda.
Homelessness is on the agenda.
Yeah, for me, it's ridership first online.
Okay, maybe I'm looking at the wrong.
Yeah, so we're gonna go to homelessness next, Tom,
Got it.
and then we'll go ridership.
And then Irma will bring up the PowerPoint.
Okay. Got it. Looks good here. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tom McCone. I'm CTA's Chief Administrative Officer, white man in his 40s with glasses. I will be co-presenting today with Laura DeCastro, who is the Senior Project Manager and has been working on these issues since she arrived here. And has a deep history of engagement on the topic as well. This presentation is the same set of information that we presented to our board when the board looked at our agreement here. So you will recognize the information if you did tune into our board meeting. In the interest of time, we may cut out some of the commentary that we provided to the board, but I want to make sure that we cover the information and make ourselves available for questions as well. With that, let me turn it over to the next page and Laura will pick up from there.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Laura DeCastro. I'm a Latina in my 30s with medium length brown hair. Today I'm wearing a black turtleneck sweater dress and I'm presenting to you all from my office. And thanks for having us. So just a quick overview on homelessness and transit. This is an industry-wide issue. It's a top priority around the country for most transit agencies, and we've heard this firsthand from New York, Philadelphia, Seattle, San Francisco, and others. There is a list on this slide of some examples of industry reports, including research, case studies, best practices, unique challenges, and unique approaches to this issue from across the country, including from those systems that I mentioned before. You'll glean from most of these reports that most transit systems experience this issue, but we each experience it in our own unique ways. Annually, the point in time count takes place. It's a federally mandated annual census of homeless individuals. So in Chicago, the point in time count occurs every January. 2024 will actually be held on January 25th this year. From 2022 numbers, it was estimated that there were 3,875 people experiencing homelessness in the city of Chicago. The count identified 2,612 individuals living in shelter and another 1,263 living outside of shelter, so unsheltered. And of those, almost 1,300, 564 of them were on the CTA, and we were essentially the hottest spot for unsheltered population. We represented the highest count for unsheltered population. On the slide, you'll also see a quote from the American Public Transit Association, and they now see this as one of their top 4 priorities. And the quote essentially sums up the issue that we and our peers are facing, and it's worth noting their emphasis on cross collaboration in the last sentence of the quote on the slide. And essentially, enforcement alone doesn't solve the problem, which is why we are where we are with this intergovernmental agreement and continuing it on for another year. Next slide, please. A quick overview of our current services. So last November 2022, the Chicago Transit Board approved our first IGA authorizing up to $2 million for outreach on the red and blue lines. As a result, DFSS entered into a $1.6 million contract with 2 agencies, Haymarket and Threshold. Year 1, so last calendar year, was really a pilot for how to address homelessness on the system. The 2 teams did have to spend some time ramping up earlier last year. So this winter is the first full winter where they will be on the system for the entirety of the season. These teams from Haymarket and Thresholds ride the trains and follow the homeless populations on and around our system. They offer or make connections to various services to those experiencing homelessness on the CTA, including but not limited to case management, support services such as helping with documentation, meals, offering toiletry kits, harm reduction, healthcare, shelter, and permanent housing when available. Apart from DFSS, we also have a separate agreement with the Chicago Department of Public Health to fund the night ministry. They also have their presence on the red and blue lines. On Wednesday, you can find them at Howard Red Line Terminal, and on Thursday, you can find them at the Forest Park Blue Line Terminal. In addition to the services they offer, including many of those mentioned before, they partner with Loyola University to provide medical services and have other partners present on those evenings to offer clothing, food, legal services, and much more to our unhoused riders. Next slide, please. Our current outreach schedule with Haymarket, they ride the blue line between O'Hare and Clarkson Lake. They have 2 CTA funded shifts for nearly 24/7 coverage. The weekends, I believe, are when, or the nighttime is when it's not 24/7, but the daytime shift is 24/7. And just like Thresholds, they do have 2 teams. This allows both organizations to attend to clients and separate if needed to take someone to shelter for a meal or whatever they may need, while the other team continues to perform outreach on the trains and in the stations. Thresholds, they ride the red line from Howard to 95th Street, also have 2 shifts. And this IGA actually allowed them to add their nighttime team as their daytime team is funded separately. And again, they have 2 teams. I'll turn it back over to Tom now.
Thanks, Laura. I'm going to go through some of the results that we've seen in the first 3 quarters of 2023 with each of these outreach teams. So if you go to the next page. So we're sharing some of the quantitative results of the engagements, and with DFSS, we engage in what we call active contract management with each of these outreach agencies. So we are meeting with them on a monthly basis, going through not only their staffing levels and the scope of their outreach, but specifically the data that they have and the information they're gathering about the individuals who are sheltering on the CTA system and the important next steps that we can all take to help move folks off of sheltering on the system and into sheltering and housing on a location that's not public transit. So far through September, the agencies have had over 5,000 engagements with individuals experiencing homelessness on the system. One individual can and usually will produce multiple encounters. So they come across an individual on one night, they're going to come across that individual on another night in the future, leading to these 5,000 engagements. We have a couple of what we call North Star goals. So these are the ultimate outcomes that we're hoping to get through this outreach and with this partnership with DFSS and these agencies. The first is shelter placements. So far through September, there have been 80 shelter placements coming off of the CTA and into a temporary shelter. As you'll see in a future slide, there's much more demand for those shelter placements than there actually is availability of the beds in those shelters for individuals to move into. The second North Star goal is moving clients into more stable and permanent housing. There's important steps in that process, and these are federally mandated. The first is an individual's enrollment and updated information in our homeless management information system. So far, 283 individuals have been enrolled from the system into that, what is called HMIS. Those who are in HMIS can then enter what is the coordinated entry system. This allows individuals to be placed in the queue for housing as it becomes available. And we've had 236 individuals complete their coordinated entry assessments so that they can be placed into the coordinated entry system. And so far, we've had 24 completed housing placements, with 5 more that are underway. Go to the next page. This page is showing a list of the total number of encounters by month and location on both the red and the blue line. What you will note from the information, and I'll read the top locations as we go through it. So on the red line, the top location for encountering individuals experiencing homelessness is Howard Station, and through August, there are 494 encounters at the Howard Station. This is followed by on the red line train itself with 410 encounters. The next station is State and Lake with 237 encounters, followed by Belmont with 87 and Clark and Division with 46. So what you can see, and then every other station has some level of activity of encounters. So we are encountering homeless individuals throughout the entirety of the line, but they're very concentrated at a few locations. And at the red line, the top location is 10 times as big as just the 5th highest location, and that's Howard. That is the top location, then followed by the train. On the blue line, Clark and Lake is the top location with 1,065 encounters. This is through July. O'Hare is the second highest location with 338 encounters. Jefferson Park Station has 275 encounters. Logan Square has 117 encounters. And the Western Station on the blue line has 94 encounters. And if you remember from what Laura indicated, the outreach is only being conducted from Clark and Lake out to O'Hare. So this is really the subway and the O'Hare branch where the outreach is being conducted. And again, you can see that we are encountering homeless individuals, or the agencies are, throughout the entirety of the line, but they're very concentrated at a few locations. And that's where they spend a lot of their times engaging with individuals looking to find ways in which to reduce their barriers and help to bring them into more permanent housing situations. So you can go to the next page. Shelter placements. Both agencies start their day by checking with the city's 311 system to determine the availability of shelter spaces. They track both the clients who are interested in shelter and the number who are successfully placed in shelter. Below, we're showing a chart indicating by month the number of individuals interested in shelter and then those placed in shelter. What the chart indicates is that less than half of those who are interested in shelter are able to be placed in shelter. And this is something that we do hear consistently when we meet with the agencies, is that we do have a number of individuals who are interested in sheltering outside of the system. It's just that there isn't another space for them to go to or to conveniently go to. And so they continue to ride on the system rather than being able to go into a shelter space, which is unavailable. You can go to the next page. In addition to supporting individuals as they may enter shelter, the outreach agencies also offer additional services. From talking with them, what you will hear a lot of is that this is about relationship building. This is about working with individuals over time to help build trust, to help reduce those barriers that individuals may have to actually getting housing, and then ultimately to help move them into a more stable situation. So the top services rendered by the Haymarket team on the blue line are the offer of food, taking them off the system so that they can get some food, so they can go sit down at McDonald's, find out more about their situation as they meet with them, followed by case management, then hygiene kits, entry into the HMIS system, and then harm reduction, substance use reduction materials that are distributed to the individuals. On the red line, same as the blue line, food is the top service rendered, often an introductory point for those outreach teams, followed by the HMIS entry update, case management, actually getting a CTA pass, and then clothing is the next item in terms of services rendered for thresholds offering services to clients on the red line. You can go to the next page. An important measure that we also look at internally, but also not one of those ultimately one of the census numbers or outcome numbers that we look at, though, is our customer complaints and our customer feedback that we have directly from CTA customers. So what I'm showing here is a chart and a table of the total number of customer complaints about individuals experiencing homelessness residing on the system in the years from 2020 up until 2023. What the table is indicating is a reduction in the number of complaints that we've received in 2023 versus 2022, the prior year, and then also versus 2020, which goes back 4 years and captures the start of the pandemic at the start of the year, pre-pandemic, following through the first pandemic year in 2020. So what we have seen is a reduction in the complaints that we're receiving from customers about homeless individuals sheltering on the system. Go to the next page. I'll turn it back to Laura to talk about one of the housing events that we did last year.
All right, so the intergovernmental agreement has afforded the CTA additional benefits, such as focused events and focused shelter opportunities. The accelerated moving event is just one of those benefits, and we had one in July where the Chicago Continuum of Care, DFSS, and their partners hosted what is a rapid rehousing event to expedite the housing process exclusively. This one was exclusively for Haymarket and Threshold clients sheltering on the CTA. Haymarket and Threshold brought 25 clients total to Harold Washington Library. That's where they did hold the event. And their clients could select from available apartments. As of late last year, 19 of the 25 clients had been housed and remained housed, and the remaining clients continue to be in the pipeline for apartments as well.
Thanks, Laura. We can go to the next page. So in addition to the numbers and some of the quantitative information, these are also critical services that impact individuals. And we wanted to give you a sense of some of the individuals that have been impacted by these outreach services who formerly resided on the trains and on our system, but now currently don't do so. So we captured testimonials from clients, one on the red line and one on the blue line, who work with each of these agencies. On the red line, first, you can see that the PM team, which is what they call CTA 2, engaged with the individual starting in January. Thresholds was able to connect him with legal counsel and actually work with him to get all of his identification and papers in order. So what you will often see with individuals experiencing homelessness is that in order to take the step to get into housing and more stable housing, they need to have all of their identification, all of their IDs in order so that they can make that next step. And a lot of the assistance, a lot of the case management that agencies will conduct is helping them get that identification and get that information ready so that they can enter housing. And that was the exact case here that we saw with the individual who was residing on the red line. I believe the person was at Howard, where they were able to get his identification in order, move him onto the CHA housing wait list, and ultimately he moved into housing with the CHA on July 25th. So an engagement that started in January, ultimately they were able to work with this individual, take away those barriers towards housing, and help him move into housing in July of last year. On the blue line, the team encountered an individual who was experiencing substance use disorder. The client was connected to detox treatment and a recovery home, which again is the benefit of partnering with the outreach agencies, is they're not just doing outreach, but they're connected with these other services which can help address the barriers that individuals are facing before they can move into a more stable situation. And in this particular case, they were able to work with an individual, again, sheltering on the blue line, and move them into a more long-term sober living environment. And this is all as a result of their engagement with the team who is active on the blue line. So we can go to the next page. And I'll wrap it up here with what we're planning to do in 2024. So we're planning to continue the program that we initiated last year to enhance outreach to individuals experiencing homelessness along both the red and the blue lines. The funding for this year will allow the agencies to expand their outreach to the entirety of the blue line. As I mentioned earlier, last year, so 2023, Haymarket was only conducting outreach from Clark and Lake out to O'Hare. This year, 2024, they're going to extend that outreach to the entirety of the Blue Line. They want to do this because they have the resources in place, they can do it. Obviously, they see a need from the clientele to work with those individuals who are along that Forest Park branch of the Blue Line as well. As Laura mentioned, there's also an additional resource coming online for the Red Line. This will allow their AM team to better connect with the PM team and transfer individuals who need services to the AM team, which actually has the connections to those services when they're available during those daytime hours. In addition, we're continuing to work with DFSS and the city to support initiatives to create that additional shelter space and housing for individuals who are sheltering on CTA. This is similar to the moving event that came about, not directly as a result of the agreement we had with DFSS, but certainly as a result of our long-term partnership and work with them, of which this is part of. And so we got authorization to match the funding that we had in 2023 with another $2 million in 2024. So the total funding level has been the same, $2 million annually, and we're going to continue the program through 2024 as we look to expand these efforts and hopefully produce more of the results that we saw in 2023. So that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
This is Robin Jones. Just a question in regards to, have you seen any increase or impact from migrants using the CTA as a housing or a location at all?
This is a question that we continue to ask the agencies as we meet with them on an ongoing basis. The answer from them has been no. So they're continuing to ride the system, look for individuals sheltering both in the evening and overnight. They are not encountering migrants or groups of migrants who are sheltering on the system. They have indicated that there has not been a change in the homeless population that they're encountering on the Red and the Blue Line. So the answer to that is no, and it's a question that we continue to ask them so that we can stay close to any changes that might be occurring with respect to that migrant population.
Thank you.
Do we have a ton of time for questions just because we're tired? Are there any other questions or comments? Then I will guess I'll ask for myself. I'm wondering if there has been like an official, given all the work and the research and that is being done, which I think is very good work. If there's been kind of an official report presented to the city about what's additional services are needed, or resources are needed, like additional shelters, especially at specific locations, given that 15-minute issue that you've mentioned in the past.
Yeah, the city has had ongoing discussions about the need for shelter, and they've sort of engaged the broad community, right, through what Laura noted was the continuum of care, which includes a number of the agencies as well. Certainly there's a recognition that additional shelter and housing is needed, and they've been working with the Department of Housing, DFSS, the Department of Public Health, and others to look at ways in which more folks can get the support that they need. I'm not aware of a particular report that the city may have issued on this, but I do know that they meet on an ongoing basis and look at a lot of these topics, which obviously we are a component of the overall community. So we know that Chicago is experiencing a homelessness issue, right? And then that comes onto our system as well, like a lot of other issues that are present within the community.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm clear that this is a reflection of societal failures that CTA is. I do think it would be helpful. I don't know, from my perspective, it'd be helpful if CTA kind of was willing to give its perspective on what services are needed. And because there is this, with the contractors, this specific, it's a specific interactions and what would be most helpful to help the folks who are sleeping on trains, because this is, for whom this is the best option, that, what CTA thinks would provide the best services. So that there was something written down, I think that would be helpful. But I also I want to be mindful of time. If there aren't any additional questions or comments, thank you so much, Tom and Laura, for your presentation. It's really appreciated, and appreciate the work that's being done.
Thank you, and thank you for your input as well. It's really helpful.
Thanks, everybody.
Right. Are ridership updates up next, or is there another switch?
You're good with ridership.
Great. So ridership updates presented by Scott Wainwright and Paul Murray.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Paul Murray and I'm the manager of Ridership. I'm an African-American male in my 50s. I'm bald with a salt and pepper beard, wearing glasses, black headphones, and a gray sweater over a purple checked collared shirt. Can we move to slide 2? We'll try to be brief today. This chart shows a weekending ridership as of December 30th, 2023. There are several stair-step lines. The line that is in the darkest blue represents our 2023 ridership, with the lighter line showing our 2022 ridership. Over the period, the weekly totals have averaged about 6 million rides during September and October. It moved down a little bit to about 5.5 for all of November and December into Christmas, where we saw ridership during the week ending at 3.7 million. That ridership was expected, but was up about 18%, which was in line with our year-to-date system, which is up 15% year over year. The month of November was up 14%, and December is tracking at 17% year over year, and an unofficial annual number is about 15% year over year. As we move into the winter months, our data suggests that we may not see any more 6 million ride weeks until spring. Now, can we move to slide 12? Yes. Sorry. Yes. Can we go to 11, please? All right. So this chart is a breakout of ADA-related rides for November year-to-date. This chart is broken into 3 parts. On the left side, you'll see a dark blue and a light blue line going from left to right. That represents the total rides for November year-to-date versus the light blue line, which is, the dark blue line is November year-to-date 2022. The light blue line is November 23 year-to-date. The middle chart, the middle part, which is in red and a lighter blue, shows the difference in the value of rides, but also shows an emphasis. So as we see at the top, there's a larger red line, which shows that the larger red line makes up a bigger percentage of the overall loss. And then to the right just shows the losses in percent-wise. These rides are broken out in 4 groups. We have the first line, which is free circuit breaker disabled. These rides are a part of a program from the Illinois Department of Aging that provides free rides on CTA, PACE, and Metro to residents that with disabilities that meet certain income requirements. The next one is free disabled veterans. The next is reduced paratransit, which in that means is that there are riders that are using CTA, their CTA card to ride paratransit. And then we have a reduced disabled again. And so that reduced disabled are those who have a disability but do not meet the circuit breaker income requirements. Just a quick overall, November year-to-date, the total ADA riderships totaled 9.8 million. It was down about 4% year over year. It represented about 48% of the 2019 ridership, which was 18.2 million. Reduced disabled ridership was about, free circuit breaker Year-to-date was 9.2 million. It was down 5% year over year. Reduced disabled was about 0.3 million and declined about 7% year over year. Reduced paratransit totaled 0.4 million for the year and was up 6%. And free disabled ridership was 0.5 million and was up about 10% year over year. Next slide, please. This chart just kind of shows the ADA rides year to date, November by hour for the entire system. This chart shows first in the dark blue line, that's the highest one on the chart that represents the 2019 rides by hour for the entire period. The orange line represents last year, and the dark blue and the bluer line shows, or the light blue line shows what happens, or the bar shows what happens last year. And we can see that we were pretty much under during most all time periods for this period represented. Next slide, please. This one shows the ADA rides by branch year over year. At the top, we see the brown line. The first line is the brown line, and they were up about 4%. We also saw that the loop, which is somewhere in the middle of the pack, was up about 1%. And then further down, the Skokie line, the Skokie branch, which is the third from the bottom, was up about 9%. We just note for the Skokie branch that was the only negative month. Skokie's only negative month of the year was in November, when the yellow line was temporarily suspended for the collision. One more piece, we'll talk a little bit about Forest Park, which is about the fifth from the top. It was down about 23%, and that's related to the station closures over the summer. Next slide, please. And this is a representation of the ADA related rides for November year to date. And this is the bus group year over year. We saw that the performance was mixed. We did see that Evanston, which is the first row, was the best performing, up about 8%. With Northside Lakeshore Drive, which is probably somewhere about 5 down. The fifth one was down about 14%. Of course, we talked about the Evanston performance was up mainly through the fact that the 97 Skokie was a major contributor as riders moved from using the yellow line to taking the bus to finding a different way to access the system. We talked about the Northside Lakeshore Drive having some declines, and we saw some of that in the 134 Stockton and LaSalle, which was down 4%. The 146 Inner Lakeshore Michigan down 10%, and the 147 Outer DuSable Lakeshore down about 17%. Given the time, that's all we have to present for today. I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions, comments?
This is Robin Jones. Just curious, do we have a reason, I mean, through surveying or anything, of why ridership is down? Do we have any
Ridership just for ADA?
Yeah, ADA, yeah.
I don't believe we have any specific surveys for why ridership would be down in November. I know previously we presented on a survey we did, I'm looking at my team, this summer, right? Or
I remember.
summer? Yeah. So we did the broader conversation, but I don't know, Paul. I know you pointed out some of the locations that we had service changes, like the yellow line and Forest Park, but I don't know if you've seen anything else in the numbers that would say we've had decline in the number of individuals getting reduced or free ride cards from RTA or something like that.
That's something that we can look into, just for emphasis, the data is for the entire year through November. So there may be some nuggets that we can glean from the summer survey, but we can take a look into it and try to see if we can identify some more things to look at.
And I would add that the RTA, when they presented their enrollment rates, they were also down and noted that, but they didn't have any particular reason why their enrollment is down. So if their enrollment is down, it'll trickle over to ridership, but they didn't have any like a gleaming light that said, you know, this is the reason why. They thought they were doing a lot more outreach because they transitioned from in-person enrollment to over the phone and electronic. And they thought that that was really helpful because there was a lot of hand-holding to make sure people got re-enrolled. But they don't understand why the pie number is smaller versus what it was before pre-pandemic.
Right. I will add that, you know, on the chart that we talked about, we showed the hours. Yes, there is an overall decline in ridership, but we are seeing that the pattern that's being shown as far as how they're riding and when they ride is consistent with what was experienced last year and what was recorded in 2019. So yes, so some of the talk about the enrollment would be a good point about this, identifying why some of the ridership is down.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions? No. Thank you so much for presenting today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's very helpful. And up next is a customer experience update presented by Lucian.
Hey everyone, my name is Lucian Liz-Lepiert. I am the project manager for customer experience. It's great to meet the new folks on the board. I've met some of you before. My pronouns are he, him. I am a Latinx male. I have dark brown hair, wearing yellow glasses. I have a blue face mask on and a white shirt with blue stripes. So what we're going to be talking about today, if we can go to the next slide, are two major areas. So the first thing we're going to speak about is the CTA chatbot, which some folks may have heard about, was been used a little while ago. We'll go into the background, some features, and how that intersects with the building landscape. Then the second topic for today will be some status updates based on action items that we spoke about last time. So last time, Emily presented the results from the Customers with Disability Survey, and we spoke about some action items related to those survey findings. So we'll talk a little bit about the status of those. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so the Chat with CTA chatbot. If we zoom out all the way and we think about, okay, what does customer service, like remote customer service, look like today at CTA? There are basically three major buckets. There is a feedback form on the CTA website that folks can find. There is a feedback email address that's listed in many places that people can also email. And then lastly, there's a phone number that's available on weekdays from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So that's what customers have access today. If we look at this in comparison to other major organizations, you know, other brands we track every day, it's kind of narrow, right? You know, we are a 24/7 system, and it's a little bit hard to find some of these digital interactions, right? So what that leads to is sort of narrow visibility into the problems that are happening on the system, right? Like today, there are a couple of dozen complaints that come to our system every day. Meanwhile, we have hundreds of thousands of people interacting with our system, right? So that picture that we're receiving isn't necessarily representative of everything that's happening. And so what we need to do is to reduce that friction to make it easier for folks to contact us. And therefore, when they contact us, the issues they will provide will give us a clearer picture of everything that's happening. And then we can make even better decisions based on that, right? So the chatbot really is just one way that we can widen our offerings for customer service and get that clearer picture. So at a super high level, on CTA's website, there will be a chat button and people will be able to supply non-emergency feedback. It's being built right now by a world-class partner, Google. And this is what gets really interesting, is that we really see it as laying the foundation for future feedback systems and even more options. So I have three examples listed on the slide of some doors that this solution can open, right? So the first door we can open in the future is a centralized way to track incidents that happen on the system and resolve them, and really have that full picture of when a customer reports an issue, who addresses it, and how we can give that resolution to the customer, which feeds directly into the second bullet point, which is another door that we can open, which is a real intentional relationship management with our customers throughout the whole life cycle. And like an example being, we can imagine that maybe Laura takes the red line and she gets off at Chicago Avenue, right? And every day she notices that the stairwell is really dirty. And so she decides to chat with us and tells us the stairwell at Chicago on the red line heading towards 95th is super dirty. We get that piece of feedback. And then maybe 2 days later, Laura gets an email saying, hey, Laura, we cleaned up the stairwell. Here's a picture, right? And so we can really have that full circle of talking to customers, addressing their concerns, and closing out issues, right? I think that could be a really cool experience. And then lastly, the last door that this opens up eventually, potentially, is having a 24/7 contact center where people can talk to CTA all the time, every day of the week, every day of the year, and really match our service offering, right? So that's the first slide. Can we go to the next slide? Now let's talk about, okay, that's sort of the high level vision of what the chatbot can do for us and where the chatbot can go. We'll just talk about some basic features right now. So at a super high level, there are going to be some new chat buttons on transitchicago.com. People can interact with this virtual customer service agent in 5 languages that are spoken in the Chicago area. So that's going to be English, Spanish, Polish, simplified Chinese, which is written, and then Filipino/Tagalog. And they will be able to talk about 7 common topics, which include cleanliness, service gaps/delivery issues, maintenance, disruptive behavior, safety and security, accessibility, and transit staff. And lastly, some of those topics will generate an email to CTA staff. So we have 5 languages, 7 common topics, and some topics will send an email to CTA staff to take a look at. And lastly, there is that accessibility topic, and it is designed to capture accommodation issues. So examples of things that we're going to support are if someone is passed up, they can provide information about the pass up, if the bus didn't kneel, if there was no staff at the rail station, if the bus driver didn't enforce priority seating, and if the elevator is out of service. So just some examples of issues that people will be able to give the chatbot and have a conversation, and CTA will then take action upon. And then lastly, this is actually going to be really cool too. A lot of these trends now will be tracked via dashboards, and this also will help with us developing that full portrait of what's going on the system, and we can get a really run a finer tooth comb through everything that's happening and just make better decisions. And then lastly, this is on the slide, but I know Laura is interested in this. We will be making sure that the chat window that people use is going to be a great experience for folks that use screen readers or other assistance devices, so that everyone can interact with the chatbot. That's pretty much everything for the chatbot. Next slide is going to talk about some of the previous initiatives we mentioned in the last meeting. The first one is we spoke about how we wanted to share a lot of this unique Ventra data that we have with other agencies to help prioritize curb improvements, right? Because the quality of the sidewalk is a huge barrier for folks with mobility impairments, folks who have trouble seeing. And so what we did was we pulled 1 year of data, folks that use those RTA senior and disabled permits on buses, and we share them with traffic planning here at CTA, and we are going to be sharing it with CDOT this month. And so on the slide, there are 2 maps that I will describe. The first map shows folks who have the RTA disabled permit, and you can see that there's a lot of activity along Madison on the west side. There are a bunch of stops that have a huge amount of ridership there. There are also a lot of stops along 79th Street. on the south side, and then along Jeffrey in South Shore as well. So those are huge hubs of activity for folks that use the RTA disabled permit. And then on the right-hand side, we have a map that shows seniors. We know that seniors also have similar issues with sidewalk conditions. And on the senior map, there is a large outlier in the Edgewater neighborhood where there are a ton of seniors boarding the bus with that permit in Edgewater. So we think this is really cool. We're going to share the data with CDOT so that we can really help use the tools that we have to help improve the condition of sidewalks throughout the city. And then the next slide is we are continuing to work with some other internal departments and contractors around some of those data improvements that we spoke about to increase the quality of trip planner plans that use CTA data. No updates beyond that right now. And then lastly, we spoke about a new internal interdepartmental working group that we are starting off. So that initiative is actually paired with another working group around the language access. So for folks who don't speak English, how can we improve that experience of CTA and of transit? So that language access working group will launch this quarter. It'll be a test bed sort of for the format and cadence of that working group. And then the customers with disabilities working group will follow about 8 weeks later. And once that happens, we will certainly involve this committee. It'll be very cool, very collaborative. Yeah. Any other questions about either the chatbot or some of these status updates?
Yeah, it's still in here. About the chatbot. First, I think it's really great that you're planning to build a feedback loop. I think it will be so important, and that'll probably help reducing the complaints, because people know what happened. They won't put another complaint, right? I was wondering, what is your plan for like marketing, sharing that, and training the users on how to use the chat? Because if you put something out there, I know I have a hard time. English is not my first language. Knowing what is the language I'm supposed to put. And you put like, oh, there's some topic in accessibility that will be covered. But if I don't use the proper language or the proper word that the chat can get, like how are you going to maybe tell me, oh, if that's your issue, please use that word? Or is there like a plan on helping people be better with your chat?
Yeah. So the way that our Google partners have sort of designed some of the conversation flows really sort of starts off with setting the tone with some examples of what common issues are and common phrases you can use. And then if for whatever reason, the phrase that someone supplies isn't understood, there are different mechanisms in the conversation to help users recover and rephrase and just, work through it with the chatbot.
And then I would note at the end too, we're having a customer satisfaction. So after the chat is complete, we do ask a question. Was this helpful? Yes, no. And if they say no, we do have a space for them to provide feedback. So that also gives us that additional space where we try to recover throughout. If we're unable to recover, then we do get that feedback at the end to say, they're using the wrong, what language were they using, so we can further train the model or update our model to the extent needed.
This is Robin. Just to clarify, the features will be fully accessible for people who don't use mouse, that, use voice activation or screen readers or magnifiers or whatever.
Yeah, so the keyboard input, screen readers, we're all going to make sure that our Google partners deliver a experience that is accessible for everyone.
Okay. And then once it's on the CTA website, it will be labeled correctly then?
Yes.
Because I know that's an ongoing issue.
Any other questions about the chatbot or the other status updates?
This is Laura. I'm curious if we can get a follow-up once you present to CDOT, what their response is, and always happy to advocate if there needs to be a push for more sidewalk accessibility, especially around bus stops. I know that came up in the last meeting, and just if they're, whether or not CDOT needs to work with CTA more to make sure that people can get to the stations and the buses that are accessible.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
This is Mary Abramson. Forgive me if I missed this, but in the chat box accessibility section, will there be a chance for me to explain that I want to report the lack of audio announcements, whether it's on the train or the bus.
Yes, there is a topic where we support maintenance issues such as that. So for example, if some of the screens aren't working or if some of the audio announcements are not working on buses or trains or bus stops, we will accept those issues as well.
Can I freeform write the issue, or do I have to pick from a menu?
There is a free form input. So once you sort of describe your issue initially, we will dig in and ask you for, can you provide more information? And then at that point, you'll be able to provide as much detail as you want.
This sounds promising. Can we test it ahead of time, or do we just have to wait till you implement this?
Yeah, totally. Once we get closer to the launch date, I can certainly connect with Irma and we can invite folks to, I guess, a preview version of the bot, but that will be probably in late February.
That would be great. Thank you.
So that would be what?
In late February. Anyone else? All right, awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for presenting and the work you're doing. Up next, up next is a presentation by the Innovation Studio presented by Emily Drexler, Senior Manager, Customer Insights and Strategy.
Good afternoon. I'm Emily Drexler, Senior Manager for Customer Insights and Strategy. I'm a mid-30s female. I'm white. I'm wearing glasses and a white shirt and black blazer. And I have, oh, I said the glasses. I have brown curly hair. And I'm joined by my colleague, Paul.
Hi, my name is Paul Black. I'm a early 30s white male with bleached blonde mullet and dark facial hair, black glasses, and a burgundy button-up with floral print.
And today we're going to present about Innovation Studio or try to keep it brief. I know we're kind of running out of time. So the goal here was to share a little bit about this initiative and hopefully get a little bit of feedback from the committee. But if we don't have enough time, we have our contact information at the end, and we hope to hear from you with some ideas. As a little bit of background, CTA's Innovation Department, which has now been combined with our Planning Department, but innovation was set up with the goal of helping the agency to incorporate cutting-edge technology and process improvements across departments to help enhance our customer experience and operational efficiencies. So Innovation Studio is a new mechanism that's going to help CTA to pilot new technologies on our system to help us solve a variety of different issues, some of which we haven't identified the specific solutions for. So why Innovation Studio? So existing government procurement processes at CTA and other agencies, they can sometimes take a long time, and they also expect you to know the exact tool or solution that you need. But we don't always know about all of the new technologies that are out there. Our RFP process also requires that you have a lot of detail in your proposal. And again, we're not experts in every single new technology. So Innovation Studio is going to help us to learn about some of these new technologies and really pilot them out on the system and see if they work for us. So that procurement process, again, it can sometimes take a year to 18 months. So this is going to help us to cut that timeline down and really test out some solutions. And just be a little bit more agile, right? We want to be able to learn about what's out there and really create solutions that are going to deliver for our customers. So if you could go to the next slide for us. So in December, the board authorized the creation of Innovation Studio. And the goal of Innovation Studio will be to really scale some of these pilots that we're going to test out into longer term solutions, the ones that are successful, of course, or maybe even system-wide solutions. So the Planning and Innovation Department is going to manage Innovation Studio. And at the beginning of each year, our goal is to release a couple of different problem statements that private sector companies, nonprofits, just other organizations can respond to. So they'll respond to our problem statement with a proposed solution. We'll go through an evaluation process, select some innovators, and then we'll go through kind of the development, implementation, and really piloting these out on the system. We expect that the pilots will not take more than 12 months or a year, so it'd be a pretty fast test. And at that point, we can decide, whether or not this pilot works for us. We'll go through an evaluation process, and if we decide that this is a great tool or technology, we'll move forward with our more standard procurement processes to bring it on to at scale or for the rest of the system. Please go to the next slide for me, please. So this is a diagram that kind of illustrates the timeline for Innovation Studio. This is going to be our first year for the project, so we're really excited. So right now we're kind of wrapping up our input phase. So we're trying to get some feedback on some problem statements. We started developing the problem statements at the end of last year. We got feedback from CTA employees, from the Citizens Advisory Board in December, from our board members, and then today, hopefully from all of you, time willing, or after the meeting as well. And then afterward, we're going to ask the public to weigh in on the problem statements and do a little bit of voting on which ones we should pursue this year. We're also partnering with our diversity group, our procurement group, our communications. So we want to make sure that we're engaging a diverse group of private sector partners, that everyone has an opportunity to present a proposal to us, and we're really getting those best technology solutions out there. So we're going to begin soliciting proposals in early February on the problem statements. And then once those are received, we'll go through a 3-phase evaluation process in like March, April timeframe. And then in May and June, we'll hope to finalize with our law department some contracts or professional services agreements with the innovators, and then begin the pilots in June. And then at the end of 2024, we'll kind of start the cycle again. We'll decide on new problem statements for 2025, release those in the beginning of the year as the pilots are continuing. And it will just kind of be that ongoing cycle of pilots in process and then new statements out there in the world for people to give us proposals on. Next slide. So let's see. And then once the pilots are complete after that 12-month period, or even earlier, if they're shorter than that, we'll work with the different user departments and evaluate the effectiveness of the pilots. We'll use our KPIs, our key performance indicators, and decide whether this was a success or maybe it wasn't, but we learned something. And so that will help us decide whether we want to move forward with a full-scale procurement, which we would again go through those standard practices that we would do as an agency to procure new technology. And then if somebody's participating in a pilot and they test out their technology, it doesn't, obligate CTA to purchase that in the future, any of that. We want to make sure that the processes going forward after that are really fair and compliant. So it's just a really great creative way to help us test out things. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul. He's going to go through the details of information about how to build a great problem statement and what we're looking for. And then hopefully we'll get just a couple minutes to get some feedback from all of you.
Thank you. We could go to the next slide, please. As Emily mentioned, we're soliciting feedback on problem statements, both some ideas that we already have and also soliciting some new ideas this week if anyone has them. But before we get into some examples, we want to talk about what we kind of look for in a problem statement. So we want, for the purposes of Innovation Studio, for this to be something that the CTA can pilot with the help from our innovator solely under our own jurisdiction. For the purpose of keeping that agility and being able to move quickly, it needs to be something that we have full control over. We also want to make sure that it aligns with customer feedback that we've received through our surveys and other avenues, as well as advisory boards. And we want to make sure that the challenge is specific, but also something that doesn't have a clear answer. And so for that, we don't want something so broad as increased customer experience, but we don't want something where we kind of know what the solution would be because we have other procurement paths that would make sense for that. We want this to be a test ground where we can experiment and get exposed to ideas and technologies we wouldn't have otherwise. We also want to make sure to hit on the point that this is not the only avenue which we are solving problems with. We've heard some today, but we just want to make sure that if something doesn't get into Innovation Studio's priority list, it's probably because it fits better in a different paradigm and not because we don't understand its priority. We could go to the next slide. So for 2024, we're going to be launching 3 problem statements, and they're going to be under the categories of safety and personal security, process improvement, which is kind of increasing our operational efficiency, and customer experience. For safety, we want to make sure that the riders feel safe and secure accessing CTA and rail. And we've got some examples, right-of-way intrusion, which would be large objects on the rail itself, detecting that quickly so we can intervene. Smart camera technology, can we use smart cameras to kind of capture dangerous situations automatically? For the purpose of time, I'm gonna not read through all of these, but I will focus on customer experience. So we've got digital signage at bus stops. We've got 10,000 bus shelters, and of them, I believe 400 have signage. And so we're going to try with the signage that has real-time arrival predictions. We want to expand that in a lightweight way, something that we can scale quickly. We have ideas around wayfinding improvements, as well as one-touch customer assistance at rail stations, something that allows customers to more easily report issues than they can today. If we go to the next slide. So as Emily mentioned, we're hoping to launch the website this month and continue to collect feedback. We'll be launching a survey so that customers can vote on what they think the priority should be once we have a set of problem statements. And then we will be announcing the selected pilots in June. And over that next year, we will be running the pilot and doing post-pilot evaluations. And this will also be an iterative process. So we're not going to wait until that year is over to start the next pilots. We're hoping to do this beginning of every year, launch a whole new set to solicit ideas from. Again, if we can go to the next slide, you'll see our contact information. So we are open for questions here, and I'll be around after, I believe Emily as well. And then if you don't have time today and you have ideas this week or questions, feel free to email Emily, myself, or the Innovation Studio email. Thank you.
Do we have time to maybe gather a couple of comments, or do you want us to receive those electronic?
We can gather a couple of comments. Yeah, I mean, if folks have ideas on the problem statements or questions about Innovation Studio, let's take those, but especially want to hear if there's something you think would be interesting for the Innovation Studio, a problem statement for us to put out.
This is Laura. Anyone go first? I mean, I definitely think, just to reflect what folks have said in this meeting before, a variety of options of wayfinding for people who are low vision or blind, and just signage improvements in general, I think, for people who are not, but just have difficulty kind of getting around would be an interesting thing to look at. And from what I gather, this is kind of like looking for tools. It's not looking for staff changes, right? Or like staff increases in certain spaces.
That's correct. And just Laura, one of the things we will test out though is, if there's something that we're trying to do and we, for example, digital signage, we're going from 400 to 11,000 bus stops, that would require staffing changes, right? So that's part of the reason why we're doing it as a pilot and proof of concept, to test out what would be the additional potential staffing needs. But really, this is about sort of tools, solutions, improving existing processes, and how we can address some of those challenges that riders come across.
Right. Yeah. It's not like you're piloting a program with increased staff in one space, right? So that's what I was asking, is it's looking, it might like there might be an effect on staff long term, but it's the pilot's limited to kinds of tools, right?
That's correct. This particular, the Innovation Studio is limited to that, but I do know what you're referencing, and I think there are other avenues we can chat and explore of how a pilot could work. on the system for that.
Great. Then I think the only other thing, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Laura, I think Sarah has a comment.
So I do agree that the issue of the bus shelters not having digital or audible signs should be a top priority. Along with the digital signs at the train stations not using their audible output feature, even though that despite the fact that many of them are equipped with that feature. And then I would also suggest the issue of many trains, when they pull into stations downtown, not announcing what route they are, or even if they do, it's like right when they're pulling off. So if somebody was waiting for that audible announcement, they wouldn't have been able to take advantage of it and get on the train. So I think that is a major issue that could be addressed by this group.
Thank you.
This is Robin. I just have a question or comment. You have under the safety and personal security, the smart camera technology. You know, I'm a user sometimes of rideshare, and I know that if I feel unsafe in that vehicle, I have on the app an option to hit something that notifies, that tracks what my ride is, what's happening, you know, whatever. Is there some, I mean, that to me would be something that as a CTA rider, if I'm in my seat and I'm feeling unsafe in my situation, whatever, being able to hit any button somewhere that might be, or be able to get to some call things, not always going to be very practical, but if there was some kind of way for, if I had my technology available, that I could do some kind of alert in a proactive way, I think that would be a really awesome opportunity to increase my sense of safety, having that in my hand to be able to.
Yeah.
Do some kind of.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that recommendation before. I think that could be really interesting technology.
I haven't had to use it, but you know, on my ride share, but it's nice to know that it's there. And when I do rides, I do have that open. So that if I do need to use it, that I don't have to fumble for it. I mean, that's just something for me proactively.
Yes.
John Gonzalez, a new member. I think that's a great idea. Maybe just putting it right on the app. That way it'll still be lightweight and it's portable. Most people have their phones, and there's a ton of service through the CTA and on the buses. Yeah, just to piggyback on what you said.
Thank you.
Delphine, and I just want to say when we use the word app, like which app, where would that be available? I think it's also maybe something you want to test. You know, people using Ventra, Transit, maybe not Google Map, but just the CTA, from what I know, don't have its own app as it is, right? So then where and how, because I think for me, I use that Ventra for everything related to my transit. I think it's going well, but I think, yes, what can be tested through that, I don't know. But yeah, that was just.
And we take a lot of lead from other agencies. And I think on this topic, there has been, I think San Francisco had like a separate safety app, but we'd look around to see what and work with our innovators for sure.
Well, thank you for the comments. Again, our contact info is in the slide. So if anything pops into your head on your way home, please reach out and let us know.
Thanks so much. Yes, thank you so much. I have additional questions, but I'll email you about them. It's a cool project, so appreciate that you guys are working on that. Up next is in our final presentation, our Farebox updates presented by William Trumbull.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to do this. In the interest of time, we'll try to go pretty quick. And then we do have a bus out in front with the new Farebox installed. So if you have time afterwards, we can go down and take a look at that. I'm Bill Trumbull in the Planning and Innovation Department, and I'm 60-plus-year-old white male with short dark hair wearing a dark blue sweater. And I'm here with Joe Mastro.
Hi, my name is Joseph Mastro. I'm the Senior Manager of the Fare Systems Department. I am a tall 44-year-old white male with a light blue shirt, button-up shirt on.
He's better looking than I am. So the first slide here just shows what the new Farebox, well, if you could go back one just to the new Farebox. So that's what the new fare box will look like, a lot like the old one. The differences are mostly in the inside and the back office. The other major difference is off to the left-hand side is a larger touch screen, which we call the OCU or the operator control unit. That will not be public facing. That will be what the bus operator sees while they're operating the fare box. The next slide shows an existing old, what we call the GenFare fare box, very mechanical. The in front of it is the cubic mobile validator that you're all familiar with touching and tapping. They are two completely different systems. So a tap gets recorded as a tap, cash and coins get recorded as cash and coins. But that fare box is over 40 years old and needed to be replaced. So it's time for that. And the next slide just shows what the inside of that used to look like. It's very mechanical, not much electronics involved in it. Required a separate operator logon, so the bus had to log on to two systems. It didn't really register bills, so counterfeit could be an issue. It wasn't integrated with other bus systems, and that delayed the accounting process, and it required a lot of maintenance over the years. So Joe has a full staff of technicians that know how to take these things apart and put them back together. So when we started this project to replace the fare box, if you could go to the next one. Next slide. Yeah, there we go. So our objectives were just to maintain accessibility for anyone who needs or wants to pay with cash. We still collect about $17 million a year in cash, so it's a considerable sum of money. We wanted to enhance the interface between the operator and the customer, so there'll be some components for that. And then we're making an effort to integrate this with the Ventra system, so the data will be available real time, and we'll be able to get better reporting and information, which our planning department can use when they report ridership, because they'll have real-time access to the cash payment data. And then the next slide. One more. Okay. Can you go back one just to the Scheiden Bachmann is the name of the German company that we selected through the procurement process. And it sits exactly where the old fare box did. There'll be a new display screen for the customers and with color and audio signals. So to announce that somebody's paid their fare. It'll be validating, so we will know that it's a real dollar that's going in and not a counterfeit dollar. We'll have real-time information, and it will speed up the vaulting system at the garage. And that integrated control unit will be a single point of logon, or the clever device will be the single point of logon, but the operator will only have that one screen to look at. So now, Joe, tell us about the new one.
Yeah, so if you could go to the next slide, please. So as Bill mentioned that the passenger display is going to have bright colors and audible alerts. So your bills and your coins, when you enter in the fare box, you're going to see LED lighting and it's going to have audible alerts. The next few slides that you're going to see are pretty much just images of what the new fare box is going to look like. And could you please go to the next one? And then you get an idea of what it's going to look like next to the old fare with the current fare box. So the new Scheiden Bachmann fare box is going to be a little more customer facing. So it's going to have information for the customer when they add their full fare in. It's going to tell them the full fare. They'll tell them if there's any overages or underpayments, and everything will be displayed right in front of them in a color screen. Again, with the sounds, there's going to be loud alerts, audible alerts, or when you're paying your cash fares. And as Bill stated, we are going to have bus 8411 outside in front of 567 today, which would be a lot better for me to show you how it operates and so you can hear some of the alerts and some of the visuals. And please go to the next slide. So on this last slide here, it's telling us about our field test. So currently we're in the process of starting our 100 bus field test at Chicago Garage. On January 16th will be the start of this field test. So we're already in preparation of prepping all of our CTA buses to accept the new fare box. We had a lot of work to do with the shops to make sure this box fits and to make sure that it's visually and accessible to the customer. So there was some minor changes we made to move some of the fare boxes towards the customer a little bit. It sits a little bit lower than the current fare box for ADA height accessibilities. And there's been a lot of work put into that, and we'll give you guys a demonstration outside after this meeting if you're available. That's all I have. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You said like approximately 17 million in cash. What's the amount that you collect in non-cash?
So, so the fare box collects between about 5 to 8% of overall fare revenue. The remaining amount is collected through the Venture system.
Okay.
And the Venture system, as you know, collects cash at the vending machines.
Right.
So cash is still a pretty big part of our business, both directly at the fare boxes and also at the TDMs. Or the Venture vending machines, but the fare box specifically is about 5 to 8% of overall revenue that's collected.
Okay, and so that 5 to 8% is the fare boxes only, or does that also include, like you said, the cash?
Just fare box.
Okay.
If I were to add the vending machines, it's another about 10 to 15%. So I would say our cash collection overall at the agency is about 15 to 20% of the fare box revenue that we.
Right, with approximately 5% being the fare box and 10%.
Yeah, and it's continuing to decline, but we've seen a pretty fare box, as Bill mentioned, continues to stay pretty steady over the last couple of years, about 17 to 20 million.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Sure. Yes. John Gonzalez, and I have a question for Joe. Joe, you mentioned that it will have a real-time network connection.
Correct.
I have a two-part question. What information will the operator see on the OCU? And will there be an emergency button in the OCU GUI?
So for the OCU is going to be the operator control unit. So when a customer comes on and they want to pay with cash, or if it's a multi-ride, or if it's something to that nature, we've replicated the OCU of what the current fare box operation looks like. So we wanted to use the same verbiage, familiarity, and just the same exact options that the driver has right now for ridership reasons, on the new fare box as well. So that OCU is going to just replicate what we use for ridership right now.
And
I was gonna add, if you talked about the panic button for the
Correct.
operator, that's a separate system that goes directly to our control center.
Okay, because it
And
is.
as soon as they press that button, everything in the inside of the buses are recorded. And so that's separate from a customer paying, because they're talking about an interaction with the customer. And then if the operator feels that there's a security issue and concern, he presses a button, the control center can then hear what's going on and is recording what is going on in the bus.
So that button already exists?
Yes,
Okay.
that exists, and it's not.
Yeah.
This, but now will be integrated because when they log in, they're logging into both systems.
And that's what
Yeah, so the current login, they'll log in through the Clever devices, and that will automatically log us onto the fare box. So we're in fare service.
Okay, that gets to the second part of my question, if it'll be password protected. In case an operator is incapacitated, will a passenger be able to access the emergency button?
No, with the location of the emergency button is very specific to the operator. I believe it's at the bottom of the seat or something. So you wouldn't, unless you are very familiar with the bus, you wouldn't, unless you're an operator, you wouldn't be able to figure out how to operate it, or turn on that emergency notification.
In that situation, we would say that the customer should call 911,
Yeah.
right? They
Right.
have a phone. and so
Isn't there an emergency alert button on the bus for customers?
No, there's an emergency
Okay, so that
button on rail.
but not.
Yeah, it's not on bus. Yep.
I think the only emergency is to pull the lever for an emergency to exit. Not necessarily.
Yeah, that's right, yes.
Yeah.
Alert any authorities or to let the operator know. I mean, the operator will see because the bus will automatically stop when that's pulled. Can't fly out and so forth.
My concern was because if the if the person operating the vehicle, if they become incapacitated. That's why I was asking about that button.
Yeah, we have various safeguards in place, and as Elsa mentioned, it goes to control center, and the control center can engage. It has both audio and actually it's visual as well. It doesn't just record, but control center will get a visual on the operator and what's going on the bus, so that then they can take appropriate action.
Yeah,
Yep.
they would dispatch a supervisor, and then the supervisor would meet the bus there and take on, whatever steps are necessary at that point.
Okay, thank you.
If if the bus operator is not communicating, like let's suppose they log in and they don't hear anything, then they will dispatch a supervisor. Supervisor will then intercept that vehicle, and then if an action needs to be taken, can take that at that point.
Thank you for the detailed answer to my question. Thank you, guys.
This is Cindy Fosco. I just have one quick question, just out of curiosity. You mentioned counterfeit. What percentage approximately is counterfeit that comes to the cash?
Not very much.
Very much.
No.
But
No, it's, I don't know what the exact treasury counts.
Yeah, the treasury has that
money, but it's pretty rare.
But with this new system, it's going to be interesting because we're going to a validating fare box, which will catch a counterfeit. We've already tested counterfeit bills and it will not accept it. So our current fare box being registering, what it does is it measures the dimensions of the bill, and that's how it counts it. So if you put a $5, a $10, a $20 bill in, it's going to count it as one. So the only way that an operator can override that by hitting the button, like hitting one of the keys that shows $5 or $10. Just with this new system, it will be validating, kind of like a pop machine could tell how much money you're putting.
oh, that's great. Thank you.
In the interest of time, if there's no other questions, and I know that folks can look at the Farebox later. Thank you for the updates. I also appreciate the work CTA is doing to make sure that people can use cash still. I think that's really important.
Yeah, nothing frustrates me more. I think about it when I go into a coffee place or whatever that have gone touchless or gone card only or payment only. And I think about the person who doesn't have a card, the person on the street, the homeless person, the whatever, and they can't go to those stores because they will not take their cash.
Right.
It's such a limiting scenario. Glad to hear that.
And Cindy, I think you're up now.
Okay, next is the facilitators report, presented by Irma Gomez.
Thanks, Cindy. So yes, as an update, in early December, I conducted a site visit for Irving Park and Montrose. As these stations will be moving up to the design phase, I will be providing my accessibility recommendations for these stations moving forward. In addition, this past quarter, I conducted 9 frontline ADA employee trainings and will continue to do these trainings as the new employee classes resume. And finally, in late December, I was chosen to be part of the 2024 Disability Lead Fellow. So I'm very excited to be part of this fellowship and learn and network with other disabled leaders across Chicago. So I'm very excited to be part of this fellowship.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Great organization.
Any other comments on that? Okay, does anyone have any old business that they would like to bring up? No old business? Okay, Laura?
Yeah, I think that was, does anyone have any new business they would like to bring up? Any topics to be added to the April 2024 meeting agenda? I mean, I think if we can make sure to set up the wayfinding meeting in between that, that would be the one thing that'd be top of mind for me.
This is Robin. I would just add, we do have the Democratic Convention coming this summer to Chicago, and there will be a number of people with disabilities that will be delegates and other representatives. So I think, you know, it might be worth talking about how the CTA may or may not be supporting those people from out of town, because I know that's, you know, this issue of reciprocal paratransit and all this stuff is always an issue. I know my office gets calls about these things all the time. So I think it's worth starting to look at, because it is going to be here and it's going to be an issue for visitors particularly.
Yeah, we have an agreement that we've actually signed with the DN CC. So CTA will be supporting the convention, and we're happy to come back and present. I think in April will be.
That'd be great.
Timely.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And then I would just add that we also assessed our stations close by. The Blue Line Ogden IMD station is ADA accessible. And then the new green line at Damon Station will be coming online. That is CDOT led, but it is also ADA accessible. As you know, all our buses are ADA accessible and cross right in front of United Center, but we have looked at features
A path to.
the United Center so that that's also accessible to them and can reach it.
We did a lot of pre-work when we were doing the line cut on the Blue Line
For the IMD station, since that was the end of the line,
for that time period, and
worked with CDOT to fix some of the curves in that area as well. So but there's always room for improvement. So if anybody sees anything.
They're using so many different hotels. It's one thing, the destination being United Center or whatever, but they're also using other venues, you know? So people are not always going to be coming just from this point to that point kind of thing. So it's on board as well as off board.
Yeah, we'll have CTA buses directly servicing all of those hotels going to McCormick Place and United Center.
And just as a reminder for the seating, to be included in the April meeting.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
This for the seating that we discussed earlier.
Benches.
Benches?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we'll follow up with Steve Masheri to include the plan for the benches at platforms.
Right, at the next meeting. Okay, thank you.
I'm wondering, we had a lot of heated conversation for the bus stop. Is there also going to be maybe one of the topic or sub discussion?
Yeah, I think Irma will set up a follow-up meeting specific on the bus stop. Tactile signs.
Something I do want to flag, I think the DNC idea is a really good one. No, we've been meeting with folks about that. Thinking about north-south capacity, even if you're not at the hotels, there's people visiting who are not there. And when buses and trains are packed, wheelchair users can't get on, a lot of disabled folks can't board the bus, and these are and some of these folks are people who don't have other options. You can't drive, and it's very hard to get accessible rideshare. So making sure that there's sufficient capacity and ability to go north, south, and east, west to get there outside of just the downtown hotels, I think is something worth considering. If you guys are not already, which you probably are, but just wanted to flag that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Laura.
We can add that.
Anything else? And I know we're running out. Okay, if that is it, then the next committee date will be Monday, April 8th at 1:30 p.m. Then July 8th and then October 7th. Then just a reminder that there, it's hybrid, and to make a quorum, we need to have at least a number of people who are attending. With that, if I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Robin Jones.
Robin moves to adjourn. Can I have a second?
Delphine to second.
Delphine seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Staying? No. Ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much.